Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Hockey Talk with TG. I'm Ty Glenn, and you're listening to this on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your local podcast stream platforms. So today, we're going to recap Game 4 between the Oilers and Stars from yesterday, and then we'll recap Game 4 between the Rangers and Panthers from Tuesday, as that Game 5 comes on today at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time on ESPN. And we'll also tell more NHL news to come on this show. So I would have done this show yesterday, like I said, in one of my episodes. I do my Hockey Talk with TG podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but then I posted on my YouTube channel that I wasn't able to do an episode yesterday, and I was going to make up for it Thursday, which is today. So, yeah, so that's why I am doing this episode with you guys, just to make up for yesterday. Anyway, let's get into it. So the Oilers, they scored 5 unanswered goals to win 5-2 against the Dallas Stars. So we got a 2-2 series, just like that. Dallas got 2 on the board early from Wyatt Johnson and Esa Lindell, but they couldn't hold on to the lead. Couldn't tie up the game, the final minutes of that third period against Edmonton. So, therefore, they lost, and they'll be heading back on with the series tied. Matthias Janmark had the game-winning goal in the second period, getting a shorthanded goal to make it 3-2 Oilers. And I think Bouchard made it 4-2. So, 2 goals in 51 seconds right there in that second period. Connor McDavid, he had 3 assists in the game. And to be honest, I'm not really seeing that much goal scoring from Connor McDavid. But I describe him as a playmaker anyway. But usually I would like to see McDavid get on the board with a few goals, if you know what I mean. So I hope to see some goal scoring in the playoffs. And if the Oilers make it to the Stanley Cup final, I hope to see him also score a goal as well. But that's a big, strong if, because, like I said, I really don't see them making it. To be honest, not hating on them, but I just feel like Dallas is the better team overall. They have the depth, and they're one heck of a team to watch. Oilers, all they have is McDavid, Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, possibly Bouchard doing all the work for them. Like Stuart Skinner, he's a great too. I'm not hating on him either. He's great, but I don't think he can match up to Jake Oettinger. So I'm sorry if you're an Oilers fan. But good news for Oilers fans. Corey Perry has returned in the lineup for Game 4, and he hasn't played since Game 5 of that second round, which was against the Vancouver Canucks, and he was a healthy scratch. Game 5 of this series is tomorrow, May 31st at 7:30 p.m. Central Time on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max. So, to me, Game 5, since you got a 2-2 series, I would say it's the most critical game. And the reason why I say that is, like I said, a 2-2 series. If somebody goes up and leads the series 3-2, they're 1 win away from going to the Stanley Cup final. It could be either Dallas, it could be Edmonton. So that's why I say it's a critical game. So both of these teams need to win Game 5. Game 5 is a most needed win because you want to feel confident heading into Game 6 of this series. And I say the same thing for the Rangers and Panthers, because that series is also tied at 2 games apiece. Game 5 is the most critical game. It is a must-need win for both of these teams if they want to inch closer to the Stanley Cup final. And I know all 4 of these teams, well, 2 of these teams, they look forward to going to the Stanley Cup finals. So that's why I say for this series and for the Rangers and Panthers, because, of course, that Game 5 is today, it is a must-win Game 5. So hopefully these 2 teams bring their all. In this case, Rangers and Panthers, they bring their all. They inch their way one closer to the Stanley Cup final. That's just how I see it. I don't know about you guys, but like I said, this is a must-win game right here. You have to play Game 5 like it's a Game 7. Like you have to. Same thing it's the same thing for both of these series. You have to play like it's a game 7, and some of these teams, I think Dallas has went to game 7 before in that first round against Vegas. Oilers have went to a game 7 so far in this playoffs against the Canucks. I don't think the Rangers and Panthers have went to a game 7 so far in this playoffs, but hey, they've been in game 7s before. They know what it's like, so you got to play like it's a game 7 for game 5. And in game 6, you feel confident. You want to end it out on a good note, and boom, you're in the Stanley Cup Finals. So that's just how I see it right there. Stuart Skinner made 20 saves on 22 shots, so he was great for the Oilers in the net in that 5-2 win against Dallas after letting in 2 goals early in that first period. He remained perfect right there. So great job from Stuart Skinner. Now we're moving on to the Rangers and Panthers series. So the Rangers, they fall short in overtime 3-2. Sam Reinhart scored the overtime game-winning goal, and the Panthers had a power play, so he scored a minute and 12 into that power play. A minute and 12 into overtime with a power play goal. And as you guys don't know, this is the 3rd straight game that has went to overtime. I mean, I never seen any playoff game that has had, or I should say playoff series. I've never seen any playoff series that have went to overtime consecutively. So I never seen that before. So that was unreal. And if the Rangers had took that one, they would have went up not only 3-1, but they would have been like 3-0 in overtime in this series. So that would have been unreal if they had won it. But the Panthers won it, so it's a 2-2 series right there. And the Panthers, they outshot the Rangers 40-23 in this game. And it seems like the Panthers have been out shooting their opponents like so far in this playoffs, like in Boston in that second round series against the Boston Bruins. They have been out shooting them in like a few games of that series. Few games of this series, I feel like they have been out shooting them, so they're just trying to lay it all on the Rangers and put pressure on them. Good news for Rangers fans. Blake Wheeler, he had returned to the lineup for Game 4, and this is his first game back since February 15 because he had, I think it was an upper body injury right there, and it was a long time that he was out, so it was good to see him back in the lineup again for the New York Rangers. And of course, Game 5 is today, 7:00 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. And this is where I kind of find it funny. I'm going to get a little bit off topic here. So just bear with me. What I find funny is that both games, both series for the NBA and NHL games, Eastern Conference Final wise, have been coming on ESPN. Of course, Celtics Pacers, Eastern Conference Final, Rangers Panthers, Eastern Conference Final, they have been coming on ESPN. PS, shout out to the Boston Celtics. They swept the Pacers and on the way to the NBA Finals, and they would play the winner of the Mavs and Timberwolves. The Mavs couldn't sweep the Timberwolves in Game 4 like the Celtics did, but anyway, I just wanted to make that point. Celtics, Pacers, Rangers, Panthers, both Eastern Conference Final Series were coming on ESPN, and for TNT, Oilers, Stars, Mavericks, Timberwolves, Western Conference Final Series have been coming on TNT. So I just wanted to make that point. I found that kind of odd and funny. But anyway, I'm going to get back on topic. I just wanted to make that point. So, like I mentioned already, these teams coming into Game 5, they need to play like it's a Game 7. They need to bring it all. They need to lay the momentum on each other. Doesn't matter who wins. But I feel like the Panthers will win, just saying. They need to give all the lay it all out on the ice, get them momentum, play like it's a Game 7. Don't take any silly, stupid penalties. You got to stay out of the box. And yeah, I think that's kind of all I had to say. I really can't say anymore. I feel like I have went more into depth about previewing sort of Game 5 of this series, and for the Oilers and Stars. Okay, so moving on to additional NHL news. So the Utah owner Ryan Smith talks about the Utah team on the Pat McAfee show. P.S. I love watching the Pat McAfee show and First Take as well. And it kind of like I would say inspired me like to start this podcast. So shout out to First Take. I love watching Stephen A. Smith, Kendrick Perkins, Shannon Sharp, and the rest of the people that come on First Take. And I love watching the Pat McAfee show as well. That's what made me start this Hockey Talk with TG podcast, just by watching First Take and the Pat McAfee show. So that's why I have this podcast. Not only for those two reasons, but also because I love hockey and I'm a sports journalist. And those are other reasons why I started this podcast. So just shout out to Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee right there. Anyway, so what Ryan Smith said on the Pat McAfee show, he says the Mammoth and Yeti are the front runners. There's two names that could also be involved. Unfortunately, it's not the Utah Blizzards, like I said. I don't know why they didn't pick Utah Blizzards. I mean, Utah Mammoth, Utah Yeti. I probably would rather go with Utah Yeti. Mostly because it just like sounds right. Mammoth also sounds right as well, but between Mammoth, Yeti, and Blizzards, I'm going with Blizzards because it has a nice ring to it. It sounds great. It sounds like it's actually a professional sports team instead of just throwing anything out there. It actually sounds like a professional sports team, and it kind of sounds like the Washington Wizards of the NBA. So, yeah, even though I don't watch a lot of basketball unless it's the playoffs or finals. What do y'all start gaming? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, Utah Blizzards has a nice ring to it, and it just sounds better than all the other 19 names that were provided. So I'm surprised that he didn't say Utah Blizzards is like one of them. But there was a poll that NHL I sent out probably a few months ago, maybe like 1 or 2 months ago, and it was to decide on what the Utah team name will be. Thank God Utah Hockey Club was not up there because that was such a corny name for an NHL team. I mean, that's more like a high school team or even middle school team wise, possibly college hockey team. But for an NHL team to be Utah Hockey Club, to me, that just sounds too corny. Like, it sounds like you don't care. You just threw a name out there that you thought was great. I mean, it is great for a middle school and high school team, but for an NHL team, it just sounds too corny. So, yeah, that's why I didn't really like that name. But yeah, we'll see what more NHL news comes our way with the new Utah hockey team. I know Coyotes fans are upset that the team is moving to Utah, but think about this. The Winnipeg Jets, they moved to Atlanta. They were the Atlanta Thrashers. And then the Coyotes, no, not the Atlanta Thrashers. The Jets, they moved to Arizona. They became the Arizona, or I should say Phoenix Coyotes then. So the Jets moved to Arizona. They were the Phoenix Coyotes then at that time. And then the Thrashers, they moved up to Winnipeg, and then they became the Winnipeg Jets. So we could see hockey back in Arizona. So don't lose hope, Coyotes fans. I mean, like I said, same thing happened to the Jets, and the same thing could possibly happen again. Or the NHL could build a new franchise in Arizona again. So don't lose hope right there. All right. Anyway, shout out to the PWHL Minnesota team. So they win their title against the Boston PWHL team in their inaugural season. Of course, this was the PWHL inaugural season, and the Minnesota hockey team, they got it done. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I do not watch the PWHL. I have no idea what would be going on. I just saw this on my page, on my Instagram feed. And I just heard people talking about PWHL Minnesota team wins against the Boston team for their first title. And I wanted to give this shout out to it on my podcast because even though I do not watch the PWHL, it's great to see women's hockey growing. I mean, obviously, we want the game of hockey to grow in general. We want it to be more diverse, get more people playing it instead of playing basketball. I'm not hating on basketball, but hockey just seems more better. Trying to grow the game, make it more diverse, get more people to play instead of playing football. Football, I am hating on because I don't like football, and I think it's boring. I watched a game and it just bored me to death. So, well, I didn't watch a full game of football, but I watched like a few minutes of it, and in a few minutes of it, I could not take it anymore. Like, it just literally bored me to death. So, yes, I am hating on football. I'm not hating on basketball, though. But anyway, yeah, we want to see hockey grow. We want to see more women get into the game of hockey. And we just wanted to expand, get it anywhere, make it more diverse, get more people to play. And yeah, that's why I'm giving this a shout out to it on my podcast, because we want to see women's hockey grow. We want to get more women to play. We want to get more people to play in general. So that was just a little shout out right there. And Taylor Heiss, hopefully I pronounced that last name right. She was named MVP in the playoffs for the PWHL Minnesota team. And I think, what's her name? She was in the 2019 NHL All-Star game for fastest skater. Kendall Coyne Schofield, I think that's her name, because she was in the fastest skater competition for the 2019 NHL All-Star game. So, she was on that Minnesota PWHL team, and so she wins her first title with them in the inaugural season. So I just want to give a shout out to her too. I mean, she is a really great women's hockey player, and I believe she's going to convince or encourage more women to play the greatest sport in the world, which of course is hockey. So, along with Sarah Nurse and a few other more great women hockey players as well. So, just want to give them a little quick shout out right there. More NHL news. So the Kraken hired Dan Blishmoff, hopefully I pronounced that last name right, as head coach Tuesday. So of course he replaces David Hackstall, who was fired on April 29th. Pittsburgh Penguins fans, you might be familiar with him because he won the Stanley Cup with you guys back in 2009, and he's the second coach for the Kraken in franchise history. And he recently, NHL-wise, he coached the Buffalo Sabres in 2016-17. He has a .320, .190, .55 record with both the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Buffalo Sabres in 565 NHL games. And Blishma, he spent the past 2 seasons as head coach of the Coachella Valley Firebirds in the AHL, which of course is the Kraken's AHL team right there. So he was called up to be head coach of the Seattle Kraken, and the same thing happened to Sheldon Keefe when he was coaching the Toronto Marlies, which of course is the Maple Leafs hockey team. He was called up to coach the Toronto Maple Leafs right there. And so the Coachella Valley Firebirds, again, that's the Kraken's AHL team. They reached the Calder Cup finals this year, and Blishmoff, hopefully I'm still pronouncing that last name right, he will remain as head coach of the team. And the Kraken, they missed out on the playoffs this year. They finished 34, 35, and 3 of the season. They were 6th in the division. And they had a great playoff run last year, going all the way to the second round, beating the Colorado Avalanche last year, even though none of us expected them to. But that was a great series right there. And then they lost to the Dallas Stars in the second round in 7 games. So they had a great playoff run last year. They couldn't reach the playoffs for the second straight year, or the second time in their franchise history. So can't wait to see what Dan Blishmoss does behind the bench as head coach for the Kraken. And yeah, we'll see what will be the result for the Seattle Kraken at the end of the 2024-2025 NHL season. More NHL news. coming from the Pacific Division. So the San Jose Sharks, they signed Will Smith, not the actor Will Smith. P.S. I can't wait to see Bad Boys 4. It's going to be coming out next Thursday. It's going to be a movie I want to see. But anyway, we're talking about the hockey Will Smith and not the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air Will Smith. So they signed Will Smith to an entry-level contract, and he led NCAA D1 players with 71 points right there as a freshman at Boston College. So 25 goals, 46 assists for 71 points. And he set the Boston College record for most points by a freshman. And he was in the top 10 for finalists for the Hobie Baker Award. Of course, that's handed out to the top NCAA college hockey player right there. And he was the 4th overall pick in the 2023 NHL draft. So the Sharks drafted him, of course. He had 9 points in the 2024 World Juniors Championships when USA all the way, baby! They took home the World Junior Championship at the World Juniors this year in January. I think it was January 5th against Sweden. Team USA won, so let's go, Team USA. Let's go. So anyway, the Sharks will also will most likely draft Macklin Celebrini come the 2024 NHL draft when it will be at the Sphere in Las Vegas on June 28th. They'll most likely be drafting Macklin Celebrini, and him and Will Smith are going to be so much fun to watch because, like my Chicago Blackhawks, the Sharks are also rebuilding. They're trying to be a better team. They're trying to get back into the playoffs like the Chicago Blackhawks. So, yeah. I mean, I want the Blackhawks to draft the number 1 overall pick, but hey, I saw it coming before it happened, that the Sharks were going to most likely draft Macklin Celebrini. They're going to have the best odds at drafting Macklin Celebrini because between the Sharks and the Blackhawks are the better team than the Sharks. And the Sharks, they finished below the Blackhawks, not in the same division, but league-wise, they finished lower than the Blackhawks, and they had a terrible record than the Chicago Blackhawks. But hey, I'm not worried about them because I'm not a Sharks fan. I'm a Blackhawks fan. Grew up a Blackhawks fan. Went to the games. And yeah, born a Blackhawks fan, grew up as a Blackhawks fan, still a Blackhawks fan. As you see this Jonathan Taves banner right behind me, and as you look right there, I have number 88 on. Of course, that was because Patrick Kane wore number 88, and he was my favorite NHL player growing up. So, yeah. Anyway, we're going to get into the NHL games on the slate, which, of course, is only one game because it's the conference finals going on. Got Game 5 of the Panthers and Rangers coming on at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time on ESPN. And like I said earlier in this episode, this is the most critical game. This is the most win game because if you win Game 5, you're most likely going to go to the Stanley Cup Final. That's just for my opinion. This is not a fact. It's just my opinion. If you win Game 5, you can most likely close it out in Game 6, and you're on your way to the Stanley Cup Final. No need for Game 7s. But they're going to have to play Game 5 like it's a Game 7. And if I was head coach for both of these teams, I'll be telling the players the same thing I'm telling you guys right now. You have to play like it's a Game 7. You cannot take any stupid penalties. Like in overtime in Game 4, I forgot who took that penalty. I forgot his name. But you can't take stupid penalties like that because that's what led to that Panthers overtime win. You're taking a stupid penalty. It's in overtime. It's a crucial game. And you know the Panthers, they're one heck of a hockey team. And you know they're going to click just like that. So that's what I mean by not taking any stupid penalties because that's going to be crucial and that's going to be your fault if you take a dumb penalty like that. So you have to play like it's a Game 7. You're going to have to stay out of the box and you're going to have to lay all the pressure on your opponent. So that's just my 3 things for both these teams right here. Rangers, Panthers, Game 5, 2 great hockey teams. It will be the battle of the Russian goalies, Igor Shesterkin and Sergei Bobrovsky, like it has been so far throughout the first 4 games of this series. So, can't wait. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode. So, of course, this was to make up for yesterday because I was unable to do the show with you guys yesterday. So, this was to make up for it. I appreciate you guys for tuning in each and single time. And if you haven't already, make sure you follow this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and more of your podcast streaming platforms. So, yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great, blessed day. So, God first as always. Be blessed. Have a nice day. And I will see you guys tomorrow to break down, in this case, Game 5 of the Panthers and Rangers, because I just broke down Game 4 of the Oilers and Stars in this episode. So I'll see you guys tomorrow to break down Game 5 of this series, Panthers Rangers. It should be a great Game 5. Most critical Game 5, like I've been saying. And yeah. And peace.